So good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope everybody got a good night's sleep. We're going to start this one out a little different. If we can just all raise our hands above our heads, give a little sparkle jazz hands here, give a little shimmy, 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 shimmy. Okay, and everybody go ahead and put your hands on your heart. Oh, settle into your body. Do a little rock. Move in your seat. Go ahead. Go ahead. Don't be weird. All right, you can just close your eyes, listen, sink in your heart. Maybe the sun gave me the power, for I could swim Loch Lomond and be home in half an hour. Maybe the air gave me the drive, for I'm all aglow and alive. What a day this has been, what a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being in love. So, I wanted to start out with a song, and that was a clip from my audition book. That is a 16-bar cut that I would have used to audition for a Broadway show in New York City. So in 2001, I moved to Manhattan with the dreams of being on Broadway. I wanted to sing, I wanted to dance, I wanted to use everything that was in my body that I knew was a song. I knew I had music. I've always had music moving through my body, whatever that meant. And I set my bags down. 2001, right after September 11th, the city was still smoldering, and I went to an audition my very first day, and I booked it. I want to tell you the odds of booking a Broadway show your first day in New York City, and I had a lot of energy and intention. I didn't have a lot of polished talent, but somebody saw something in me that they took a risk on putting me into this production. And my career started to go like this. It was national tour, and I got my union card, and bigger jobs, and better contracts, and I got a great agent, and I started to do TV and film, and it was incredible. And it was one of those moments where, have you ever seen your dream unfolding? You know, the door's cracking, you're like, this is what I wanted. This is everything I dreamed about. And the energy is palpable. So I booked a production of Carousel at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Right? I was going to go sing for the president. And it was, I remember, I was like, every morning I'd wake up, I couldn't believe it. Now, around the same time, I started to have this weird pain in my abdomen. Specifically, I started to have pain in my left testicle. Yes, it's 9 a.m., we're going to say the word testicle. And I remember thinking, oh, this is weird, but I'm 23. I'm 23, I'm Superman. So I left it. I really didn't do anything, and I waited a couple months, and this production is coming up, and there's so many exciting things happening in my life. Well, one morning I wake up, and I can barely stand. I can barely get up off the bed. So I said, I'm going to go to the emergency room. And I went to the emergency room, and the nurse says, you know what, let's send you over for a sonogram. And from the sonogram, they sent me to an MRI, and they sent me to a CAT scan, and they sent me to 4 other offices. I finally wound up in a room with a sheet on, and I'm passed out from the day. I'm exhausted. And all these doctors funnel into the room. Nobody says anything to me. Very busy New York City hospital. And all of a sudden, this one doctor points to me and said, this is a male with advanced testicular cancer. And it was the moment where all the sound moves out of the room. So I mustered up the strength to call my dad. I had to tell my dad I had cancer. Felt like I was totally screwed up at 28 years old. I got on a plane, and when I got home, they said, yes, you have cancer. It is metastasized to over 9 tumors in your abdomen. You have a tumor that is wrapped around your left kidney. You've got a tumor that's wrapped around the superior vena cava running to your heart. And I remember thinking, I was so upset. And I grabbed the doctor and I said, Doc, this sounds awful, but if everything goes right, can I be in D.C. and sing for the president in like 3 months? And he laughed. He said, I love your spirit. He's like, but you're going to change your plans for a while, and you're not going to be a Broadway performer. You're going to fight cancer for a little bit. We're going to do that together, and I'm going to hold your hand. And he made me an amazing plan. And basically what happened was, we're going to do as much chemo as your body can take. So etoposide and cisplatin. They're like silver bullets for this type of cancer. And we're going to see how your body fares. We hope you're good on the other side. At the end of 5.5 months, I got another CAT scan, and all the spots are still there. You know, all the spots are still there. And it was like, oh, I wanted this to be done. And it wasn't done. That was just the reality, so I had to accept that moment. What we ended up doing was a retroperitoneal lymph node dissection, where we cut from sternum to pelvis, and you take out all the digestive organs, and then you cut away all the tumors, and you put everything back in, and you staple it back up. Well, as incredibly invasive as this sounds, after 12 days in the intensive care, my whole family was sitting around me. No food, no nothing for a week and a half. Felt like I was going crazy. My doctors walk in, and they looked at me, and they said, "Freddie, you're cancer-free." My whole family was in the room. And yeah, I'll clap for that. It was an awesome moment. It was incredible. And it was storybook. There's not words for that moment. I mean, it was an amazing, incredible experience that I'm blessed to have lived through. And at that time, I said, great, let's do this. I'm going to be the poster child for every testicular cancer survivor. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to be on Oprah. I'm going to do all the things, right? We're going to go back. I'm going to be invited into my Broadway show of choice. Because come on, I mean, look what I went through. And that was not my experience. What happened was I started to, 1 month after going through surgery, I started to lay on the floor for 3 to 4 days, where I would experience these abdominal adhesions, would twist my small intestine, and I would just have to lay there until they released. That happened every 2 months for 3 years. Every doctor I went to, every specialist, you don't have cancer anymore. Sorry. I know the adhesions suck. I know the pain sucks. But you're still here. You should be thankful. So it was a very frustrating experience. Now, I still did theater. I still auditioned for shows. I would grit through the pain. I never missed a performance, even with this happening in my life. Incredible, incredible pain. However, after going into the production of Billy Elliot, another Broadway tour around the country, I had I wanted to mention this. Abdominal adhesions, let's talk about the beauty of scar tissue, because it's beautiful. 2,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, stronger than steel. So when we talk about this scar tissue formation in the body, I think we've got to give it its credit and its due. And also, I think some of me working with chronic illness has been accepting what is, being really present to what is. So I really started to study these. But in 2011, they didn't release. So I went back into the emergency room. They had to remove a foot of small bowel because where it was cramping was totally necrotic tissue. And they did the same scar, pelvis to chest, opened it back up, and again, sent me out of the emergency room. We're really glad you don't have cancer. Good for you. And you can imagine at this time, my nervous system after this surgery in 2011 tanked. Understatement. I developed chronic fatigue and full body neuralgia and horrible, horrible anxiety from the trauma, because all I was waiting for was the next time I'm going to the emergency room. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. It was an incredible experience, and I walked into a doctor's office one day and I said, there's got to be something here. Give me something. Best surgeon in New York City. 5 minutes into the meeting, he closed my file and he asked me to leave his room. He said, you're a liability. I don't have anything for you with abdominal adhesions or scar tissue. The only thing we can do is keep cutting you open in an emergency situation. And if I prophylactically go in there, I'm liable. I remember sitting in Union Square, crying my eyes out. I was so sad. I'm not going to cry now. I was so sad and so frustrated with the medical system. So I said, allopathic, thank you. We're going to look somewhere else. So I started to look to functional medicine. I started to look to the whole body health, right? I needed to explore something else because I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted from my allopathic model. So in this model, what I found was we started to discover things that made me really excited. When I started to test biomarkers and metrics in my blood and my tissues that are not offered by your general practitioner, I started to find these incredible things. I found that I had titers for Epstein-Barr infection 4 times the normal limit. I found cytomegalovirus 4 times the normal limit. I found mercury, lead, 98th percentile in my tissues, the issues in the tissues. I found chronic strep, which I always had as a child. I found food intolerances. Within these surgeries, my body became so stressed out and reactive to the environment that I was down to about 11 foods. And I could barely walk through even a Whole Foods and find something to eat. I was a very sad and angry individual. Although I'm wired for positivity, so you can imagine me, I'm sort of positive, walking around really sad and depressed. I found that the adhesions led to abdominal scarring, which had horrible chronic constipation or waxing and waning diarrhea. And then I moved into a house with floor-to-ceiling black mold. So while functional medicine gave me a lot of knowledge and information, it really didn't give me a lot of progress. If anything, I felt very weighted under all the labels of the conditions that I had. I would say that the path through, come on here, clicker. The path through for me was starting to really take all those labels and say, okay, what can I do to get better? So my get better was flying all over the country and trying all the things. Ozone therapy, photobiomodulation, infrared saunas, coffee enemas, hypoxic breathing machine, cryotherapy chambers, cupping, stem cell injections, herbal regimens, PRP therapy, urine therapy, liver cleanses, gallbladder flushes, inversion therapy, fasting, water fasting, keto, paleo, vegetarian, pescatarian, biofeedback, bioresonance, scanner therapy. I tried all the things. And what I found was some of these modalities were amazing, and I had huge breaks from the pain and shifts in energy, but I would move forward, and then I would fall way back. And my belief is, my understanding from this experience is that what I was focusing on monotherapeutics. I was looking outside myself. I would read about a topic, and I'd get so excited about ozone therapy. It's like, that's going to kill all the viruses in my blood. It's going to rebalance my bioterrain with a higher oxygen level, and I'm going to be healed. And it was sometimes an improvement, but it wasn't affordable, and it wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't really that natural. What I found is that we spend $1.1 trillion in our economy managing chronic illnesses. It's an incredible cost. So medications, loss of work, supplements, functional medicine is very expensive, even though I think it's awesome in its infancy. Expensive treatments, diagnostic testing, home remediation, transformational tech. I spent over $300,000. But you know what I never had anybody do? I never had anybody set me down and talk about the basics. The basic never happened in a doctor's office. Nobody talked to me about, I have vitamin J up here. Does anybody know what vitamin J is? Joy. There was no joy in my life seeking health or seeking wellness. None. Why didn't somebody mention that to me? The idea that sleep hygiene, the time when my body was actually repairing scar tissue, was tanked. That's something I learned how valuable that is by tracking things like my biometrics. You know, I wear this strap that tracks my SpO2 and my heart rate variability and my deep sleep and my light sleep and my arterial health. So every night I get data in an undeniable fashion that I cannot ignore. I can't ignore it. And I see and feel how easy it is to move through the day when all those metrics are good. Things like stress perception, things like hydration. I could talk 5 hours about hydration, and I bet 1% of the people really nail it down with how poor our water is and how dead our water is and lacking minerals and lacking spin from a vortex to structure the electrons in a format that permeate the tissues. It's incredible the knowledge you can gain. So I put together this program that took me from couldn't walk, couldn't go to the bathroom. And I just have to say, since I said testicle, I'm going to say pooping. When you can't poop, life's not fun. And so from being able to walk, going to the bathroom again, experiencing joy, singing, I took myself from the person with all the staples and all the scar tissue back into 2015. I booked Phantom of the Opera. And I toured around the country for 5 more months. And so my N=1 experiment was, I did it. I hacked myself. For all the people that wouldn't touch me or look at me or examine me with a 10-foot pole, I put together my own program, self-funded. I was broke at the time. That's another talk. Finances and energetics behind money. And I moved through the experience. So I could talk about all those, and I want to, and I would love to talk to you guys for hours. But today, what we'll talk about is, I'm going to talk about one thing. I want to look at the programmatics I use to move through the experience of abdominal adhesions and scar tissue, because it's a part of our body and it's something that everybody struggles with. And you're going to have long-term chronic issues if you can't manipulate and upregulate that scar tissue. So we'll just pick one today, and that's me in the bathroom with a coffee cup. So the shirtless selfie made its way in. So I have my essentials of technology. I love my MagnaWave Soul. We can clap for MagnaWave. I love my red light therapy. I love my binders, my charged electron doning charcoals from the volcanic ash of Hawaii. Shout out to my Hawaii people. I love my infrared sauna with a low EMF bulb and a canvas tent that is a Faraday cage, which is a block to non-native EMFs. I love all these things. However, the big ones for me that stopped me from having surgeries from 2007 to 2015, the big ones was magnetism, was pulsed electromagnetic field. So I've done a lot of this. And I've been on a phone call with Pat, and one of the most generous people in the world with his information, his time, and his knowledge. And it was one of these things where I started to do some PEMF, and immediately, I went from these cramping sessions that were every 3 to 4 weeks. I haven't had one in 2 years. And so what I could tell you is magnetism is going to, and I'm sure everybody has different explanations of this. The cell is breathing. It's respirating. You know, I like these 5 points that I got from Dr. Pollack, and I interviewed Michael David, and I talked to Pat. I talked to everybody in the industry. And basically what we're talking about from a scientific level, because I nerd out on this, you know, the magnetic wave is something that is going to oscillate at different frequencies to encourage the body's natural recovery process with magnetism. And I like to understand something, because I want to tell another cancer survivor how to do it. I don't want to point them down, oh, you need this device and this device and this, and you need to go see this person, because that's sort of dogma, because what worked for me might not work for them. So if they have understanding and knowledge, and they could put the information in practice, to me that's empowering. So recharging the transmembrane potential, and I'll go a little high school science here, but the idea that there's a net positive on the outside of the cell and a negative on the inside, that potential, for me, the transmembrane potential is a hill. I always think about sledding in my front yard, and if I put my sled down in a bunch of snow, I don't go anywhere. I need the gradient, right? Or the pressure change to drive things in and out of the cell. And so you're going to get an increased ATP or adenosine triphosphate, you know, breaking apart those phosphate bonds and releasing energy into the cell. You know, if it's really low voltage in a cell, you can have 2. If it's high charge, from my understanding, you can have 38 molecules of ATP. Hence the upregulation in energy. The sodium-potassium pump, which has to do with that membrane potential. We get a better pH in the cell, and then we get better oxygen uptake. So the simple way for me is like the cell is breathing, and I think that's why I had that dramatic reduction in pain. And in the instance where I was cramping or twisting, I would have instances where I would do a 30-minute session, and I would go, and I could feel it just release. And I can't tell you how amazing that feeling is. And my passion is I hope there's more medical intervention, that the first intervention is not emergency room to cut out tissue, but maybe there's coils in the ER for these emergency room situations. And it's not a either or, it's a both and, which is the conversation I'm really passionate about expanding. The resonance principle. Here's the thing. So the other way I like to think about PEMF is the idea of transfer of information. And my favorite example is two tuning forks. They're both dead metal. They're an A flat. And if I strike one, I get waves and particles moving through space. The other tuning fork picks up the information, which is binary code, and starts to sing in healthy sympathetic vibration. It knows its song. The metal knows its song. How weird is that? What is reality? The metal knows its song. So I think your liver knows its song. I think the small intestine knows its song. I think your hip bones know their song. And so there's a healthy resonance which we can encourage the growth of tissue or osteoblast or whatever it may be. And I just find that so exciting that it's all about song. I also view the periodic table as a piano. Starts with hydrogen, right? Do we all know that? You're like, eh. Starts with hydrogen. So hydrogen is a vibration as a result of the oscillating pattern of that periodic table element. They're all different vibrations. So what are those vibrations? They're notes. Just like, almost like being in love. It's all a song. So the frequency, when we're talking about, we turn the dial on our machine, we go up and go down. It's really easy to get real mechanical and be like, I'm just turning the dial. I would put intention to that. You're playing an instrument. You are playing an instrument and you're talking to the body. And you have more magic in your body for intuition that I think we give ourselves credit for. So my simple explanation of frequency has always been how frequently the wave travels from tip to trough. And when we talk about almost like being in love, which is G5, that's 781.37 hertz. So 781.37 waves traveling in a 1 cycle second. And we get that great tone, right? And that's something, if you tapped in your body, if you had hands on your body, you'd notice an area that was like, did my heart light up? Did my pineal gland open up? Did my throat chakra open up? Everybody has a different area where you open when you hear a song. It's very pronounced for me. And the more I do this stuff, the healing and the getting clear and clearing away noise, the more resonant I tap into, not here. And it's like a superpower. So again, I want to show you that it works. So this is me. And what I did was I was like, well, let's bring a thermographer over to the house. Let's see what's going on with my body. And I had one of the things in that chart, one of the things that I also went through, which is crazy. It's like everything is unique. The cancer was very unique, the mold, the metal toxicity. I also had Lyme disease. That sucked just as bad as anything else. But the Lyme, I had horrible pain in my hands. And I think when you start to look at these different self-pathogens, you're going to find that they permeate areas of the body where there's not great blood flow, where there's not great oxygen, and you're going to have long-term chronic pain. So I would have pain in my hands, and one thing we discovered from pre- and post-pulse electromagnetic field was that it didn't have a lot of blood flow flowing through my arm there. Whether it was a pinched nerve, so do I work on the arm, do I work on the neck, do I work on the hand? And what I found was actually after I talked to Pat is that I started to work different areas where the pain wasn't necessarily at and found this great alleviation in inflammation patterns. So the right is post just 45 minutes of pulse electromagnetic field. So again, just some more evidentiary proof that what I was doing was going in the right direction. The other thing that I do is I work with a system very similar to the one you've seen in the hallway, HRV vital scan. And after 6 months, I've done 18 brain scans. My brain's always at 100%, always in alpha and beta. And I feel like that. I feel like I have great word recall and access to whatever I want to say, and my heart's desire, and I'm manifesting money, all the things. But also, my 43-year-old body is also more like a 29-year-old biological age, so I think that's pretty cool as well. And that might show up in my energy, but it also might show up in the way I connect with other people. It's really profound. So again, another metric where I've seen pulsed electromagnetic field to drive these beneficial responses in the body. And if you want to get specific with the pulsed electromagnetics, specifically what I've seen, we can do a Q&A about this, but if you turn the dial down or go to your lower, your more gentle, your gentle click rate or an oscillating pattern or a hummer, then you're going to see immediate benefits in HRV, whereas the really high wave all the way up, that can act as a stressor. And you can see your HRV go down a little bit. However, that is also akin to going to the gym. I would expect your inflammation to go up after you did a leg day or a squat day, right? Because you're doing a hormetic stressor, you want growth. So we're going to stimulate the system. And moving on, I got 2 more points here, and then I want to get to our Q&A. The other thing that I love for scar tissue, so I talked about magnetics. The other thing that I think is important is our red light, right? The sun is 48% spectrum of red light that we don't get. We're in a box. These bulbs are not great. We're not exposed to this red light pattern, which resets the circadian rhythm in a beautiful way. So what I've seen red light therapy to do is to increase collagen density, increase microcirculation, increase mitochondrial support. Most importantly with the scar tissue would be lymph genesis. And so from my understanding and scientific background with working with some red light laser therapists, what they're telling me is when we use red light therapy on the tissue with multiple technologies, we see an increase in natural fibroblastic repair. And what that means is that scar tissue, which has no elastin in it, is all of a sudden generating a lymphatic system of its own to start to act like normal tissue again. And so for my scar tissue, the magnetics and the red light, it wasn't 1 and 1 equals 2, it was like 1 and 1 equals 6. So I had huge benefit from doing that 4 times a week, 20 minutes, and what I found was working on multiple areas of the body or systemically was the absolute best. And red light therapy for me was between 660 and 900 nanometers of wavelength. So that's visible almost into the invisible spectrum. But there's great evidence coming out on post-heart attacks, repairing the cardiac tissue in this 1200 spectrum. And there's some great studies on that I've dug up that I can definitely send out to people. Of course, you can see this in the skin. You know, we can use the MFWS, that's the Modified Fitzpatrick Wrinkle Scale. Yes, there's one of those to be able to quantify the effects of red light therapy on a wrinkle. You get 3 scientists in a room and they all vote if that wrinkle is improved or not. Because we can all be swayed in the morning, be like, oh, I look pretty good today. You don't. You drank all night, you didn't sleep. But red light therapy, this is 30 treatments. That's 30 treatments. Look at that. I mean, I don't know if it shows up well in the skin, but you can see the different depths of these wrinkles change over time. So while it happens on the outside, where we can witness the flowers in the garden growing much prettier, inside is the really cool part for me, is what's happening, is we're seeing this redistribution, or we're seeing this repatterning of collagen. Come on, clicker. Yep. There we go. So again, there's 30 treatments. So to the left is pre-treatment. Look at the depth and the density of the collagen starting to form. It's really compelling stuff. And if we look at the advanced numbers of melanoma erupting in the United States for skin cancers, a great scientific little booster to bring a red light panel in your life, or maybe go visit a biohacking center that's going to be incorporating red light therapy. Maybe there'll be one in Louisville, maybe there won't. You can incorporate this, and 20 minutes before you go outside is protective. So it does a better job at protecting your skin from melanomas than sunblock, because it's actually charging the cell in a beneficial way. The last slide I'll just mention is what I stacked was magnetism, light, and I did proteolytic enzymes. So what I started to do was, because my scar tissue was formed, and I know that's a physical thing that was only being helped with surgery prior to date, I decided to look into the science on what can resolve this scar tissue. And all scar tissue is when you get in a trauma and an accident, your body sends in scaffolding to go fix the wounds. And the scaffolding should absorb back into the body in 2 weeks. However, with adhesions or somebody's body or a horse or a person or a baby that's out of balance, the scar tissue, the scaffolding-like structures stay there. So we've got to work with what is, the reality of what is. So I use serrapeptase and nattokinase, which are proteolytic enzymes, which help to dissolve this scar tissue. And the science is really split. Some people say it's amazing. Some people say the jury is out. For me, it was something that really was, I felt moved the needle, especially when I stacked it with the light and the magnetism. It's not 1 and 1 and 1 equals 3. It's 1 and 1 and 1 equals 10. And that was really, I use serrapeptase and nattokinase, and now they're combining serrapeptase with C60. And if you haven't read about carbon-60 is another fascinating molecule in the body that can help with longevity and inflammation. But the beauty of it is, this little carbon structure, and I'm all about carbon. There's so many amazing things about carbon that we don't utilize in the human body and health. The carbon is small enough to get anywhere and everywhere in the body. So stacking that with the serrapeptase can be incredible for animals. And there's actually a company called C360 that I've been kind of talking to and working with, Ian Mitchell, who has designed this formulation for pets and animals. And I've talked so much. I'm not a doctor. I'm an advocate for health. I'm a citizen scientist. I'm somebody who is very passionate about helping other people get up when they're down. That's been my experience. I'm so happy to be here for this conference. I love people. I love talking to people. I love smiles. It's amazing to see everybody's face. I'm so thankful to be here and to be in the presence of people like Pat and his family. You know, for one thing, the industry of health and wellness, what I just said, it can be very expensive. And that's fine. I believe in the investment in health. You're going to pay it on the front side or you're going to pay it on the back side. It's all coming to call, right? But I think the really great thing is that when you're engaged with technology in a company like MagnaWave, with integrity, with transparency, with the right certifications, with the service and support, it's somebody I always want to be involved in, always. And that's something that someone can call me and I can make a recommendation. Easily. I just feel good about it. It feels like the right fit. And my lesson over this whole arcing story, and I'm going to close it right up, is that if you place your day-to-day fluctuations on like your health, it's going to be a sad life. You know, what we've got to do for ourselves, for our animals, for our horses, is say, I would offer that you approach it with the inquisitive nature of a child. Have you ever seen it? Even when they fall, they're like, oh my God, isn't that interesting? Look what my body's doing. Look what my body's telling me. What a unique signal. Even cancer. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Because it's my firm belief, so we've got the soul in the body, right? And as the body's ripening or decaying or whatever, the soul is really growing exponentially. So we're going to get to the point where we're just like, oh, I'm too big for the body anymore. I'm growing. So I just want to help expedite that process. And remember, we're in this world that is really challenged right now. It's really hurting. The world needs the people in this room to be at their absolute best. Their absolute best. That's what we need. So I think we've all got to be doing this work, chronically ill or not, and spreading these stories and spreading healing and spreading magnetic fields and our knowledge about health and wellness. And my name is Freddie Kimmel. My podcast is the Beautifully Broken Podcast. I would love if you listened to it and gave it a review on iTunes. Shameless self-plug. And thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Questions? Okay.
Aloha, Freddie. I spoke to you last night. You're just a beautiful human being inside and out. My question is, your J factor, you come across with just such beautiful energy. And how much do you feel just with humans, how animals can feel that is just as important as us treating with MagnaWave?
Yeah, it's 99%. In my experience, healing is 99% is the emotional body. It's what you bring to the table. I have coaches that I have a functional medicine coaching. You know, I go to School of Applied Functional Medicine, Institute for Functional Health Coaching. Great programs, great mentors, and we all learn the same thing. But at the end of the day, I could do a consult with like 4 or 5 different people, and they're like, I want to work with you. I want to work with you for you. We all have the same information, right? It's all the same. Information is so cheap. How do you put it in practice? I think that's the magic. So to speak to joy or energy, what the body is exuding, I have a 4-foot field that I create. Each individual cell has a magnetic field. This is fascinating to me too. As a whole, it's about 4 foot. So, and we all have a different magnetic field that's a different size, and it's different and measurable in different ways using gas discharge photography, GDV. And so my aura, my color, my magnetism, it's like what I bring into the room when I start working on somebody, the greatest and highest possible good. I actually, as a Reiki practitioner, I say a little prayer before I put my hands on someone or I talk to somebody. Because believe me, I always have imposter syndrome. I'm like, who are you to tell someone about their wellness? Who are you? You're not a doctor. You're not, you didn't go to medical school. However, I've been in the room with hundreds of doctors. They're dumbfounded after we talk. They're like, listen, it's different. It's different. The energy is everything. So I say a little prayer. I make an intention for the highest possible good in that spirit, in that soul. I set the intention that we're going to find it together, and we do. We do. I think that's everything to me. And I'm working to have more joy. One of the things about going through chronic illnesses is that my blind spot is feeling like I was robbed of time. So I always want to fill it. I don't want to rest. I don't want to go on vacation. I don't want to stop working. I want to keep. We're programmed as achievers. It's like, what do you need to be doing? So that's my short answer.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
So you said the red light is as good as like sunscreen.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like an everyday thing? Because I have very fair skin.
Yeah.
And I hate the sun personally, but I don't. I like it outside, but it's not on me. But like I have the LZR, and so if I did that every day, I'd be more protected than, or at least help myself.
The science supports that. It also supports the natural way would be, and it's really hard to do, would be to wake with the first 45 minutes of the sun and let that red light hit your eye, your retina naturally, which would reset your natural circadian rhythm, which is a huge, it's going to purvey into how your DNA reprograms that day. So that's number one. And then number two would be supplementing, bringing in the element of nature, which we programmed out by our engineering design of our households, right? So stack that. And from my understanding, it takes time. So we're looking at any of these things that we're bringing in for health and wellness. It's a 120, 240-day window. It's not try it for 2 weeks and be like, red light didn't work for me. Magnetism didn't work for me. You gotta see it through, and you gotta go slow and train. Because you wouldn't go into the gym one day and be like, I'm squatting 400 pounds. No, you're going to do form, function, ankle joints, lower back, lumbar, pushing from the glutes, right? So we're going to entrain. So I say everything, just go slow. And start exposing yourself slowly. Start exposing yourself to other people. No, to yourself. Start exposing yourself over time and build up and see how you fare with less of the toxic sunscreens. Because they're one of the worst things in the world to put on your skin. Everything you put on your skin is in your bloodstream in 10 minutes. It's measurable. Yes.
So the other thing I'm kind of questioning after you just said that little blurb, and so I live in Minnesota where it gets lovely dark really early, and we have a lot of like seasonal depression. Have you found like anything with the LZR to correlate with that? And what kind of treatments would you recommend, or sessions, I should
I
say?
think just 10 to 20 minutes a day. I
Okay.
personally don't have seasonal depression anymore. I grew up in Rochester, New York, which is one of the
Thank you.
capitals of seasonal depression in the whole world. So that's helped me greatly. I'd say you could also look at a full spectrum light. Nothing's going to mimic the sun. Nothing. And so even though it's cold, even just your retina doing the first hour and a half of the day, because that's the full spectrum of beneficial light, that can help the seasonal depression as well. Yeah.
Questions? Oh,
Hi, I appreciate your talk. I have chronic fatigue syndrome, also diagnosed several years ago, and have had amazing results with PEMF. That's why I'm here. But I'm curious with your chronic fatigue, if and like you, I have high levels of Epstein-Barr and other things in my body. Do you feel like that's healed, or do you still deal with like post-exertional malaise or crashes with what you're doing, or are you just healed from that?
Yeah, I would say healed. I'm probably more energetic than when I was diagnosed with cancer. I'm more functional now than I ever was. I remember, if you timeline yourself back, I remember eating lunch like when I was like 18 and being incredibly fatigued. Of course, we were going to Wendy's and, the quarter burger and the fries and the cheddar fries and all those things. But I remember feeling that way. And if I track my timeline back, I had mono. I had adenoids. We had strep throat every week. So that was part of my childhood. Now, I think as I continue to have a level of awareness about how I need to live my life, I'm very cautious. I think the things, again, the programmatics, hydration, sleep hygiene, we're in a toxic world. The normal child born right now in the umbilical cord, in the amniotic fluid, 271 non-natural toxins, microplastics, 271 day one. I just had a 7-year-old with a hair test, heavy metal toxicity, 70% of lead, right? All these things are passed down generationally. So it might not be your chronic fatigue. It might be grandma's and grandpa's and up the line. So when we're healing ourselves, we're healing our generations forward and back, is my belief. And so I'm always, it's not just for me. And again, when it's what you want, it's a really narrow hallway, but it's why you want it. Why do you not want to have chronic fatigue, right? Why? It's quality of life. It's I want to express love. I want to fall in love. I want to do all these things. So that changes the energy around getting better. It makes it really fun. And sometimes it's a mind shift to allow the fatigue to leave. Or whatever you think that was. Whatever you think that label was, chronic fatigue syndrome. There's not a test for chronic fatigue syndrome. It's symptom sets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are some tests. They do AT testing.
Yes.
A 2-day, like a Workout Foundation. But that's a physical test but it's still not, definitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many things. I'm so long-winded. I'm so sorry. I know I'm like got the wrap it up sign-ish, but I'm long-winded. And there's so many things with hydration. I'll go back to hydration. Smallest molecule in the universe, number 1 on the periodic table, is hydrogen. That's a great way to upregulate your water. Water doesn't actually go in the cell. It goes in your tissues. Water doesn't go in your cell. Your cell makes water that is absent of a heavy hydrogen isotope, this is going to get really heavy, called deuterium. So your cell makes like this deuterium depleted water. It's almost safe water. If you remember back to the experiments around the hydrogen bomb, and they were trying to make heavy water, our drinking supply in the US is 155 parts per million heavy hydrogen isotope deuterium. That deuterium isotope, when it gets around the membrane, slows down mitochondrial function. So there's great data to support this new model of a deuterium depleted water completely, it's a game changer for chronic fatigue. Because for me, chronic fatigue, cancer, arthritis, it's all mitochondrial dysfunction. And most of it can be traced back to the way we've designed our environmental complexes, right? So it's a toxic little world. You got to think outside of the box. But water is something that is it's a game changer. I always, when I'm working with people, it's lesson number 1, week 1. That's what we do. Is your water, like I said, water has a spin, a vortex. It aligns the electrons. And so Dr. Pollack, Easy Water, Gerald Pollack, he's shown that water becomes like this glue-like substance or a gel inside the cell. It's a totally different type of water than the water we drink. So I try to mimic that when I create, and that's been huge for me with chronic fatigue syndrome.
Okay.
Huge. Hello?
Hello.
I'll take that. Should I sing to him?
Oh, hi. Hi, Freddie. That was
Hi.
a great presentation. And
Thank you.
I love what you said about the periodic
I made
table.
that just for you guys. Never did that one before. Brand new slides and everything.
Well, thank you. And the periodic table, thinking about a piano, I thought that was really great. I love that. I have a question. We use the LZR, and because of its strength, it's a minute, each application.
Yes.
I'm not really that schooled on the rooms of red light therapy. I love the idea of that because I say to Bob, I'm like, can't we just step inside something?
Yes.
Why are people able to be in a room? Is it just is it a frequency, lower strength?
They're all very, from my understanding is, when you're working in the range between 600 and 900, I have found better benefit, I'm going to say 100x, than I love the spot treatment for a joint, but what I've found is because it's boosting mitochondrial function, that I work systemically. And you can go buy a $50,000 red light bed. I've tested those against heart rate variability. They don't test as well as some of the panels.
So is that what you were using, panels?
I was using a panel, yeah. There's a company I work with that, and actually this company pulses the light, so we do get a deeper, there's some science to support that we get a deeper penetration of the tissue with a pulsed frequency. So you can, again, how frequently that wave is traveling from tip to trough, we can go 10 hertz, we can go 40 hertz. Some of the Alzheimer's studies, I have a patient with Alzheimer's, he's actually in Louisville. He's 51 years old, but also had a horrible chronic mold exposure and had Lyme disease. And when we went to the Mayo Clinic and got their feedback, they didn't want to hear that he had mycotoxins in his blood 99 percentile. They didn't want to hear that he had Lyme disease. They didn't care. They said, well, that's a theory. I was like, well, the theory is the 51-year-old can't engage with his wife, so let's have that conversation, right? And so there's really good studies coming out from a company called Vilite, which is using 40 hertz with a nasal cadule up the nose, and they're pulsing to have they're finding the 40 hertz is helping to break up this beta amyloid plaque. Now, again, you get into the world of biohacking, and it's like a $3,000 system. There's one little red light in your nose. You can get a full body panel that programs in your different frequencies, and you can pulse anything you want. So I can go into the Library of Congress, I can look up different resonant frequencies, and I can make up my own pulsing schedule. I could write a frequency program for that if I wanted, and I do see that to be true. I do see that to be true, that different frequency programs will change the nervous system in different ways. And that's very untapped, untouched. There's not a lot of science. It's like an N=1. You got to see what happens when your body. But systemically, for me, with a light panel, at least 3.5 foot, I've seen really great, especially the HRV, relaxation of the tissue. Oh my goodness. If you're a massage therapist or a body worker, to do 20 minutes of red light therapy and then do your N=1 experiment. Go try to work on somebody's quad, right? Touch it before. It's because if somebody's dehydrated, the quad is going to feel like a burnt chicken breast. It's very unmalleable. Go do 20 minutes of red light on it. You'll see, it's malleable. You can roll it in your hands. You can change the cross-hatching of the collagen fibers. It's really cool. So that's my long, short answer.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
One more question.
One more.
One more. Behind me. Yes.
Freddie, will you end with a song?
Will I end with a song? Sure. You guys are going to have to sing with me, though. All right, here we go. I got a good one. Before I close with the song, there's a group I work with in New York City called Sing for Your Seniors. I just moved to Austin, Texas, but Sing for Your Seniors, we go to Austin! Woo! We're going to connect. We go to senior centers, and we, as Broadway performers, when we're not working, we bring our audition book, our 16-bar cuts, and we go sing in senior homes for an hour. Again, the frequency or the song, you'll go into these spaces with people in catatonic states, totally shut down, and you'll be singing, and they're like, arm goes up, get up out of the chair, start dancing. I have videos of this. It's crazy. Music heals, frequency heals. So, here we go. This is going to be all together. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling, everything's going my way. All the cattle are standing like statues, all the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by, and a little brown maverick is winking her eye. 1, 2, 3. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. Pat, you got a mic. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Last verse, just me. All the sounds of the earth are like music. All the sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze, it's so busy. It don't miss a tree, and an old weeping willer is laughing at me. I really want to hear it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way, my way. Oh, what a beautiful day. Thank you very much.
Freddie Kimmel.